Hello. Oh, hello. Hello. Can people hear me? Can people hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Art and Animation of Warframe panel. I'm joined here by the incredibly talented people you see here on stage who brought you 1999, Tekra, Encore, Isleweaver, and so much more with their teams, and some things you guys haven't seen yet. We'll get to that in a little bit, but we're going to start with some introductions. Kary, hello.
Hi, I'm Kary Black. I'm the art director on Warframe, and I think it's really, really hard to follow a panel that had a mouse run through a bear all the way.
Yes, yes. And we have a special guest. Hello, Flair.
Hello there.
Hi, Kaz. Hi, Kaz.
Hello.
Hello. And we have Marco.
Hi, I'm Marco, Associate Art Director with Warframe.
And next to Marco, yes, yeah, Marco, next to Tim, or next to Marco. Hi, Tim.
I'm beside myself. I'm Tim. I'm a principal animator on Warframe and mocap performer for Soulframe, so I get to just play pretend for a living.
Woohoo! And we have the lovely Sedona.
Hi there, I'm Sedona, and I'm a senior animator on Warframe.
Woohoo! And we have the lovely Adale.
Hello, I'm Adale. I'm a senior character artist on Warframe.
Woohoo! All right. Now, what if I told you we were starting this panel by announcing the next Prime Warframe? And now, what if I told you that that next Prime Warframe is Caliban Prime? Rise up, Caliban gamers, let's go. Now, Marco, what did we want to keep from base Caliban, and what did we feel Vadim could kind of explore with?
Well, first off, congrats to Vadim. That's a terrific concept. And what we wanted to keep from the original Caliban was, well, most of all, the vertical split in the middle. And we went all in with that for the helmet as well, having the same going forward, and all the VFX. We wanted to keep the sentient theme alive with all the patterns, and we kind of reflected that on the gold trims on the character. And of course, his very agile and slender constitution still needed to be there.
Amazing. And we kind of passed that over to his Caliban Prime summons. Yeah. So, so his Conculus, Ortholus, and Sumulus are also getting the Prime flair. How do you approach priming all these different characters?
Well, a lot of it is keeping the same tints and the same colors as the main character in this case. And as always, we add those little prime bits and gold bits to the characters. In this case, to save a bit on resources and on time, we have some of the pieces that are reusable among all the characters. In particular, their head is all the same.
They're triplets.
Yeah.
They're besties. All right, we also can't have Caliban Prime wandering around without his signature melee weapon. So the Venato Prime is also coming with his Prime Access. And Kaz, the Venato already has a really fairly extreme look to it. How do you push that design even further?
Well, we obviously wanted to keep that weird elbow in there. And it also rotates at the end, so we chose to emphasize that little rotating function at the end. And then the blade as well, that cool vertical blade, so unique for a scythe.
Absolutely. And now we haven't had a Prime sniper rifle come out in a while. And so guess what? You're getting one. The Vidaria Prime sniper rifle. And I know, Kaz, that Vadim was particularly excited about this. So how did Vadim, marry Caliban Prime into this rifle?
Well, first of all, he's been pitching a sentient sniper rifle to me for quite a while now. So we finally found a cool place to put it in. And I mean, it just so happened that he was also concepting the character. So he brought some of those elements in, like you've got the golden rib cage kind of area on it. And if you look closely, there's a cute little sentient eye.
Aw, look at that little guy. Yay, Vadim, you got your Prime sniper rifle. All right, now that we've gotten a little glimpse into our future, we're going to go to the past, to 1999, and more specifically to the Hex Quest. And Tim, a lot of mocap went into this quest. Actually, quite a bit. I'm curious how many hours and sessions
Yeah, so every time we do a mocap session, all the data gets recorded into a folder with that date on it. So we went and counted up the folders we had, and we had 14 folders. So that means 14 mocap shoots. Probably an average of about 2 hours per shoot, but we do mix in Soulframe and Warframe in the same shoot. So it's very rough estimate, probably about 20 hours of working in the mocap studio on this.
Incredible. Well, we've got a video here that shows you just a fraction of those 20 hours. Let's take a look.
Not again! Bastard!
Didn't the bastard doctor warn you? I've an order.
Master, my master, why hast thou abandoned me?
All that matters is I'm here now.
I was too slow.
Give it up for animators. Yeah. Incredible. Incredible, Tim. Obviously, our quests are a labor of love. So what were some of the standout moments of working on the Hex?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like dramatic moments and kind of bombastic moments, but I'm gonna go with a little bit less obvious answer. There was a kind of a somewhat quieter scene where all 6 of the Hex were standing around after they had just seen Albrecht's message on the computer, and they're trying to make their plans for what to do next. And it's a little bit more of a subtle flex, but there's 6 characters in the scene. We only have 3 mocap actors. So we each had to kind of run through the scene twice, playing 2 different characters, and we'd have like a little chair or stool standing in for the missing character, so we'd kind of know approximately where to look if someone was talking. And we have, in the mocap room, we have 2 TVs set up, like opposite of each other, so we can kind of watch if there's any previs that has been made. We can listen to the recorded voice acting and pantomime to it. And sometimes we'll even put the waveform of the audio up on screen so we can kind of see when our cue is, so we don't miss it when the voice line comes in. And it was over 2 minutes, and it all went to one animator. Alex animated all of that. And she got all their individual personalities in there, and yeah,
Incredible.
difficult but very well done.
Incredible work. And now, Adele, you worked on Eleanor's character model. What was it like watching her come to life in the quest?
It was really great seeing how animation utilized all the extra time that was put into her for, like, for instance, the tongue. We weren't sure if there was going to be enough time for it to be rigged, but I made it anyways.
Yeah.
And then they just used it so amazingly to bring so much life to that character. And I love how cute and just adorable she is in the kissing scene. So
She really is. We made time for tongue, y'all. Yippee. All right, that actually perfectly segues into our next video. Believe it or not, the kissing scenes for the New Year's Eve kisses were actually mocapped by, well, okay, hold on. You'll see. So we're gonna take a look at Eleanor's and Amir's. Now, Tim, you and Elise had to get pretty creative around mocapping this, which we'll see right now.
Yes. So first, before you do anything like this, you have to talk to each other and be comfortable, like know what you're comfortable doing. And we thought at first maybe we could try mocapping the hug. They're all supposed to be a hug and then a kiss. And we thought, well, we could maybe hug and then we'll just fake the kiss because it's animation. Mocap is never the final product. There's always a ton of manual animation that gets done after the fact. So we were confident we could just add that in and make it look believable. But it turns out that like, hey buddy, good to see you again, because we're good buddies, is not the type of hug that we needed. And so we were like, we can get into it a lot more if we stand beside each other, kind of just look out of the corner of our eye and react to each other. And so that's what we did, and we just kind of, afterwards in animation, merged it together, got the physical contacts working and stuff like that.
And you did share a really lovely story about Amir's smooch scene.
Yeah, so Amir, he's so he has to psych himself up a little bit, and then when he does, finally, he's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. He maybe overdoes it a little bit, and so he very dramatically whips off his glasses and does a little twirl and everything. He's a bit extra. And so we thought, well, that one's not too steamy. We can actually mocap that one. And then it turned out, oh no, we still couldn't because we don't know how to dance. So whenever there's dancing in Warframe, I don't do the mocap. As you know, Danny Octavia boy band Sokolowski. So we don't know how to dance, and we were like, I'm not really sure how to do this without getting tangled up. But fortunately, there was a third animator in the room, Jason, who had just recently been married, and he was like, I got you. We learned a couple of fancy moves for the wedding so that we could dance. And he's like, I'll give you a quick little lesson. And so he taught us how to not get tangled up so that we could do a little spin. And so very happy, very approximate anniversary, Jason. And thanks for the tips.
Congratulations, Jason. Thank you for the dance moves. Now, for some of us who were successful in our Kim conversations, the romance continued in the back room. Now, Kary, this looks very different from what we know the back rooms now. This was an early concept. How did it kind of transform from this point?
Well, at the beginning, it was actually going to be in the city, and it would have an old tailor shop at the front because Warframe, fashion frame, kind of sort of fit. And then you'd have your sci-fi mad scientist room in the back. But then as narrative happened, we needed to get it into the mall so that everything was going to wind up working. And then we went with a 90s loft conversion instead. So.
And we did. And we have a video here. We're going to take a look at how the back rooms came together from start to finish. In a moment. Believe me, it's very cool. We shall see the building blocks. Actually, we should start talking about it. So when the pieces started coming together, Kary, what were some of the kind of energies that you wanted to bring into the space, or kind of the player considerations that you had in mind?
Well, I think one of the big ones we were looking for this was actually to do a space that is really cool. Everybody could, know what story we were telling, but then actually be able to strip it back so that somebody wanted to really be able to put their own thumbprint on it. Not all the way back to a simple box, but, as close as you could, and still have the other version be able to tell the story. So it was kind of consciously making sure that with all the decisions, there was the ability to pull them back and still have the, floors, walls, and ceilings stay up.
Absolutely. And I learned something really interesting about the helmet room, where actually when I was doing research, Kary, I'm quoting you here, I'm sorry, but it was inspired, the chair that you sit in the helmet room was inspired by, and I quote, a creepy dentist chair, which feels appropriate for the room with lips on the wall.
Absolutely. Marco really drove a lot of that with I think it was Corey and a couple of other people, And if you've ever had traumatic dental surgery when you're in your teens, you can all sit in that moment, right? So.
Thank you, Kary.
I'm here for it, yep.
And let's give a round of applause to our environment artists, programmers, level designers, lighting, material, and textures. These guys bring these worlds together. All right, now outside of the back room, roam the Scaldra. And we see here some of Minky's work, which was foundational to that faction. So, Kary, can you tell us from Minky's work here what was kind of pulled in to create that faction?
Well, I think it's amazing how many foundational things actually are. So, the Efervon, which was a big, like, how is it going to work? How are they going to be able to take on infested when they're mere humans from 1999 and similar? So there's that. And then the playfulness that Minky had in his work was kind of key. So here you have bubble-wrapped enemies, and we're a third-person shooter. And, it's not quite as on the nose as we are right at that moment, but that came through the whole way. And I think that playfulness was a nice way to get this thing started.
Absolutely. And then we see Michael brought it all together here with the final concepts. And Marco, when building up the Skaldra faction, what was the most important kind of features to help distinguish between one another?
Well, leaning in a bit on the different silhouette changes. So you have one character that has a huge head or a huge top, and one with a big skirt, and try to help it with some of the emissive elements. That helps as well with the harsh sliding condition, try to make them more readable in every condition. And then you have game design and behavior as well going into that. So if you have a character running at you with two glowing sides, you can know what's going on.
Yeah, you can kind of expect what's coming next. But speaking of, so the Skaldra move and attack in some really dynamic ways, which we're going to see here in this video. And Sedona, what were some of the kind of goals the team had for the Skaldra in relation to other enemy animations in Warframe?
So just to preface, I have been working on enemies since The Murmur alongside Scott Johnson. And The Murmur were like crazy, crazy hard, and because we didn't have anything to work off of. And so when we got over to the Skaldra, one of the things we said is we need to not go that crazy again. We should use some of the 10 years of existing gameplay animation to try and make our lives a little easier. So working with that, we started making just like focusing on the idols and maybe a couple locomotion changes, but then the personalities of them got like crazier and crazier. And so we did end up making more work for ourselves in the end, but like I think they ended up coming out super charming.
Absolutely. And speaking of charming, I know, speaking to Scott as well, obviously very talented animator, and he carried so much of that over into the H-09 Efervon Tank animations, and we're going to take a look at those as well. And Sedona, I know you have a particular affinity for the tank.
Yes. Watching Scott work with like vehicles in general, like he's usually the vehicle guy, and we have a term that we use when we're giving notes, and one of the things is like give it a little Scott wiggle or Scott shake, because he adds it to everything. And so he of course added it to like the Skaldra, and he added it to the tank. And when we were having anim reviews, like everyone was sitting there going, "This is so cute," and I still agree with that. Like it's a very charming boss. And talking to Scott, he said one of the things is like, he's like, I'm not working on a battle sim. I'm working on a weird sci-fi game. I'm going to have fun with this. And I'm so glad he did, because I think he came out great.
Absolutely. I never thought I'd call a tank endearing and charming, but here we are. We also can't talk about the Skaldra without talking about Miss Major Nessie Rusalka. And Now, Kary, how does one begin to even ideate such a bold, standout character?
I'm going to be completely honest. This one you largely leave to Rebecca and Liger, because, me asking for a V-neck that is quite that V is a very difficult thing for me to ask for. So they drove a lot on that one. And then, of course, the iconic performance and the great sculpt by Scars and everybody else. It really came together.
Absolutely. I heard the word bravado was thrown around a lot in her design, and I think the V-neck speaks to that especially. And her big claw arm, which was inspired by, as I understand it.
It would be the Orkin, yeah.
It would be the Orkin.
Bit of a nod that this is, at the base of that.
Absolutely. And again, shout out again to Michael Skyers for the incredible character model, Rusalka here, as we know and love her. Yeah, absolutely. Now, we learned a lot more about Rusalka in the Kim conversations with Mom Toxicated and Papa Polar. And two, of course, are proto frames that came out with Techrot Encore. And we're going to start to take a look at Minerva. And Adele, how did you start, looking at the potential stylings for Miss Minerva?
Well, it wasn't really determined what her age was going to be yet, just that she was going to be older and possibly part of the Skaldra. And so that's what you see in this slide here is 2 different age ranges and a more Skaldra-looking version of Sorrin.
And then we ended up going a little bit different. We have a video here showing Minerva's directional shift, which is kind of more similar to what we know Saren as.
So in this video, you can see how once it took a different direction, it was more that she's 40s. And so I was like, well, what was cool in the 40s what was cool in the late 90s for someone in their 40s? And I kind of referenced like the aunt that I had that I thought was the coolest and my grandmother. And there's this movie Barbed Wire that I thought was awesome when I was younger. So it's a lot of influences from that to make her like a really fierce, badass lady.
And you nailed it. It's only right to talk about, yeah, of course. We love Minerva. We love Minerva. Thank you, Adele. Now, it's only right to talk about Velimir next, our big, lovable polar bear that drives Minerva insane. And it's Liger's pride and joy. And Marco, with Protoframes, obviously there's the goal of kind of maintaining the aesthetic of the original Warframe. So how was this achieved with Velimir?
A bit of an easy win with them. I have a huge winter coat, and that's pretty obvious. From a player perspective, you still have most of the tech gear on his back, which when you're playing the game, you kind of see constantly, so that helps. And the pretty straightforward palette with him. It's
Absolutely.
Blue and white.
And I understand that Velimir's relationship with Minerva also affected some of his jewelry.
Yeah, we had a pendant on the concept that Liger did that had a cross. So we wanted to, not force any religious connection there, and we were trying to find something else to go with it. And Adele had the good idea to have a reference to one of Minerva's pieces to go in there instead, and we went with that. That was great.
So sweet. Now, our headlining Warframe and Protoframe in Techrot Encore was Temple. And this glam rock sentient guitar wielding superstar was actually your creation, Kaz, back in 2018.
Yep.
What was it like to have the opportunity to revisit this and actually have Temple come into the game?
Yeah, so I think all of the artists have some little ideas for what kind of Warframe they want to make in the back of their heads, right? Right, guys? Everyone thinks about that stuff when you work on this game. So I was just thinking, what are my favorite themes? What have we not done yet before? Like, what would be the coolest thing that I could possibly do with all of my tastes? And I couldn't get like a rock star out of my head. Started out with like 80s rock and stuff. I've got like Slash from Guns N' Roses in there. I've got like the fringes and stuff. The one thing that didn't change from this concept would probably be the shoes. But this was the original concept.
And then we have where it kind of transformed from there. So we're seeing obviously Temple and also Flair's, like Temple's Protoframe, Flair, and big shout out to Nathan who worked on the hair and the makeup as well. Really bringing the glam rock together there. And now, last but not least of our Techrot Encore crew is our temporal teenager and Nova Protoframe Kaya. And Kaya is so interesting because she has the most visible infestation out of the other Protoframes, particularly on her arm. So, Adele, how was this achieved?
Well, the character team had been wanting like an update on the skin shader since the earliest Hex, and the programmers worked really hard and made it happen. And Nathan did a lot of fielding and testing on getting that to look right with the programmers, and you see the amazing results in just how awesome Kaya looks.
Absolutely.
So,
and it set the foundation down for character artists to kind of work from that point.
Yeah, now we can use emissives and have metalness, and it's so much easier to blend between skin and Warframe, and it opens up so many possibilities to the types of skins and coloring we can do in the future.
Fantastic. Shout out to our programmers and Nathan for that. Thank you so much. All right, there we have it, our Techrot Encore Protoframes. We're going to give a little round of applause for our character artists here as well who made them come to life. Now, a core part of Gemini skins, of course, is our Gemini emotes or transformation emotes. And we have a video here that we're going to show you a little bit of that process. And Tim, you had worked on Kaya's Gemini emote. And you mentioned that there was, her Kim story, narration worked on that. It actually inspired her emote.
Yeah, so kind of at first glance, it looks like she's just kind of having like a fun, playful, cute interaction almost with the camera, where she's kind of like, striking a cute pose, pretending to take a picture, and then kind of like tossing it away like, yeah, let's keep it real. But like, for those of you who have taken the time to get to know her a little bit more, you might know her backstory, and what you might see is someone who's like taking their power back, and she's kind of giving you a warning. She's like, I'm keeping my eye on you, and if you try anything funny, I will kick you to the curb so fast your head will spin. And she's not having any of it, and she's just very cool, and I'm glad that she's feeling that way now.
I agree. And I know, Sedona, you had also worked not only on the Hex emotes, but also the Tekrot Encore emotes. And what was the kind of process of creating the Encore emotes?
So when emotes were first announced, like the Gemini emotes, seeing the one at like TennoCon at the beginning, we were like super excited to like get started with them. And Elise always did something like extremely extra with hers, and that just sort of paved the way for us to kind of go, oh, well, maybe we'll do that too. And so we end up having like a lot of fun on them thanks to that. So with the Encore emotes, it was nice that we had like, we already knew we could push it. So for instance, like when I was working on Minerva, Elise had already been working on Velimir for a while, and I decided because they're a couple, I should make their Gemini emotes kind of like couple-coded. So you'll actually see like their poses at the beginning are mirrored, and the kiss of death that I made Minerva do was also like an allusion to Frost using his breath to make the snowball. And so that was like kind of our fun little thing that we added.
It's like they're pretending that they like each other again. That's so sweet. Now, the proto-frames were, of course, fairly prominent features in Tekrot Encore, but so were the Technocyte Coda. And Marco, obviously we see here some of Minky's sketches for this, Tekrot boy band. So what kind of set the tones here from Minky's concept to what we know now?
Well, he had the neat idea to have facial features be the prominent thing there, and we kept some of that, mixing it with the behavior and the characters of the original human boy band, and mix some of the 90s gadgets in there as well. So you have the frontman, which has a big mouth in the chest, kind of a big mouth in the head as well. Has a microphone stuck on the back of his head if you get close enough to look at it.
Dangerous.
Yeah, and the Packet, being the more nerdy guy, has the video game console stuck in the chest, and swapped his four eyeglasses, the four eyes, for a big one.
Fabulous. And then, of course, from Minky's fantastic work, we had our character artists bring them to life. So thank you to our character artists for our beloved boy band online. We love them dearly. And then from there, the animation team got to work on these characters, giving each member some truly gruesome charm. We're going to have a look at them here now. Sedona, they obviously have such unique personalities. And how did you go about creating such diverse movesets between all characters?
So I'm assuming like everyone's started to realize that like we're pretty 50-50 split in regards to when we're using keyframe and when we're using motion capture, and we try to find the path of least resistance in every case. With the boy band, because their setups were so diverse and there were things that just didn't seem really feasible to do, the whole boy band is completely keyframe animated. There's no mocap whatsoever, and just because like they're so absolutely out there, especially Zeke, as you can see. This was Jay Baker who worked on him. Zeke was initially supposed to float, and he wasn't supposed to have so many arms, and Elise requested a few more before being pulled off to go work on cinematics, and so Jay took over and did an absolutely fantastic job. I don't know how he does it. I need to ask him. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's fantastic. An actual magician. Now, from the Technocyte Coda, the Coda weapons were born. And Kaz, which of the Coda weapons did the team have the most fun making?
Well, that's easy. All of them are fun. It's always fun to work on infested stuff because they're their own little creatures. They're kind of characters in their own right.
Absolutely, and I know you in particular worked on the Coda Motivire, which was kind of this amalgamation of vehicles and different parts. You want to speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah, that one's based on a scooter. I had like 2 particular models in mind for it, and I approximated it here and there. And yeah, we wanted to get 3 different damage types visible on it. So we did 3 different heads, and there was a bunch of different ideas about like how we would do that. Like, is it going to be a scooter? Is it going to be a blender? Is it going to be a wild washing machine motor, like in the videos where they throw the rock in it and it just goes crazy? I ended up with scooter because I guess I had motorcycles on the mind. Yeah.
And then we ended up calling it the pizza cutter eventually.
Yes. I like Bloodborne.
Ooh. Hey, yeah, there you go. Shout out. Yep. And then, of course, our weapons artist took it all the way and created our fantastic set of our fantastic Kodo weapons. Now, we had a little interim moment between Tekrot Encore and Isle Weaver, and that was our magical water girl, Uriel Prime. And we have a little behind the scenes of the Uriel Prime trailer that we're going to take a look at now. And now, okay, Tim, tell us how you guys made this happen.
Yeah, so we knew with Uriel we would have to have K driving. So that meant it was going to have to be outdoors. And we knew she had an affiliation with Event Kids, so it was going to have to be the Orb Valis, and the Corpus were going to need to be the enemies. And we knew that she was kawaii, so we had to make it a little bit anime opening style. We got magical girl transformation, a little bit of like limited 2D animation and like lower frame rates, which was a fun challenge. It's more work to do less frames, believe it or not. Our engine wants to smooth everything out to like 60 frames a second or higher, and we had to kind of like force it to obey our faked lower frame rate. And thank you to the tech anim department who had to re-rig all the cloth for us to be able to hand animate just for specific shots in the cinematic, because in game it's all run with cloth simulation that runs at real time, and so it wouldn't obey our fake lower frame rate, so we had to keyframe it. So of course this happened on the character with the most skirts, fins, little bows and tassels and a bell, and like so many little cloth bits to move around. But they nailed it, and thank you for doing all the extra work so that we could do the trailer that we wanted to make. And yeah, so our direction for this one was kind of like, if you guys remember Grendel and Goss, it was like, go big, but go completely different, which was challenging. But with Grendel and Goss, we did something we'd never done before, which was kind of combine 2 into 1. And so my sort of counterpart in the video marketing side, other Tim Nanasi, he had the pitch of basically, what if every Prime trailer from now on was completely unique and different from all the Prime trailers that preceded it? We kind of already did that with Grendel and Goss. I think Uriel worked based on the comments I've seen. It was pretty different and out there. And I've heard Tim's 10-second elevator pitch for the next one, and I think it's going to be totally different and amazing, so.
Ooh, all right. All right, so after Uriel Prime, we jumped into Isle Weaver, and just a quick note, the next few slides will be showing images and videos of spider-like creatures, but we're going to talk about Oraxia. And this spider-themed Warframe had been floating around in the community for a while. And how did we come about, finally making it a reality, Kary?
Well, this is one where, again, like another artist wanted to grab the theme and kind of really ran with it, actually. So Nikita did fabulous work here. Very interesting one to see how it started off with a lot of very, very disturbing reference. And then, the final character is kind of out of the park, really. So. Yeah,
that whole thread was a little bit of a jump scare.
It was, yeah, absolutely. It was fun to look back on.
Yes. And we, of course, have to include the Oraxia scuttlers, which we see here. Nikita did a little bit of exploration there on how those could look. And then Nikita brought it all the way home and made her come to life as the Warframe that we know and love today. And a really standout characteristic of Oraxia is her Silken Stride ability, where she literally walks on spider legs. And Sedona, I'm just so curious, how?
I don't know. No, seriously, like with Warframes, usually like a lot of animations are shared between them, specifically with locomotion. You have like a set skeleton, this is what you work with. And Oraxia kind of threw that all out the window. So she's got a whole new set of animations that we kind of had to like figure out how to make work and play nice on these spindly little legs. And this was, again, Scott Johnson and Jay Baker and Eric Stoible, who, again, it was a team effort. I don't think we could have done it without, like, everyone coming together for this. Also, yeah, kudos to Eric on the Scuttlers. He did such a good job.
They're so cute. Wow, incredible. We also had a new enemy enter Duviri in Isleweaver, the Unseeing Herald. And, another Minky concept. This is actually part of a bigger kind of murmur exploration that Minky had done. So what was kind of the deciding factor in bringing the Unseeing Herald into Isleweaver?
Well, that was actually like talking with Pablo, and he had an idea for an interesting character to try, which maybe someday we see, maybe we don't. But trying to get something that was ranged into the mix was kind of the gist of that. And then in the back corner that we hadn't used yet was this guy, which is, all right, well, we can do something with a mouth, and then it kind of kept going.
Yeah, and it kept going into this. And Marco, how did we get from Minky sketches to what we see here?
We wanted to keep the same idea of the big anatomical parts that it's pretty common in the wall elements, and kind of go home with it and try to make it stand out from the other enemies in the Murmur faction.
Definitely stands out, Marco.
So give it a good different silhouette. Behavior again works well there. But yeah.
Absolutely. And then Sedona, you had the honors of bringing this murmur mouth into action. And how do you even begin to animate something like this?
Well, I was lucky enough to have a lot of experience working with the Murmur already. Any floating Murmur enemy was animated by me, essentially. And so...
Woohoo! Yeah! Sedona!
But yeah, I love people asking me to animate a weird little guy, and I believe he falls into this category. So my goal every time with the Murmur was try to upset the animation department with it. And so I think he's charming, but others might not agree. I understand.
Do you guys think he's charming? Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so something we haven't shown yet is a deluxe skin. And
Yeah, a lot of people have been annoyed at me for this for apparently about 10 years now. So.
yeah, this one in particular is very special because not only was it shown on DevStream number 79 in 2016, it is also another Minky project, and also, Kary, you had worked on it as well. Can you take us back to that time and what the experience was like working on it?
Well, that's a bit of a lifetime ago, but yeah, I can. We were looking at Zephyr, who was at the time a rather relatively noisy Warframe. So standards have changed with time, and we were seeing so with a deluxe, let's do something that's maybe a little bit more clean and see what some influences might be. So there was some 5-star stories, and then how can you have that be with a tribal theme, and then some kind of classic Warframe in the mix and everything. And yeah, it was a little crazy because I did actually have her walking around in the engine 10 years ago, and it's taken a while to get to next steps, but
we've arrived, and she will be walking in the engine. We're really excited to share that the skin has been revisited, and in memory of Minky, it will be part of the rewards for this year's Quest to Conquer Cancer campaign in October. And there she is. And she's absolutely stunning. We included some of those Conquera elements into her. And what was it like to revisit this blast from the past with Olina?
It was interesting. It was maybe a little bit too personal at times because, of course, Minky was one of the most important people I've ever worked with, and a bit of a mentor. So actually, happily, Marco was able to work with Elena and do a lot of the Conquera elements in the end. And it's a very cool piece in a lot of ways because you have people that we're touching Warframe things like 20 years ago. If you look at some of the early sketches from Minky, and then me kind of in that middle part, and then somebody who is really, really young relative to me, who almost hasn't had Warframe in their life, or not had Warframe in their life. So it's a lot of interesting hands having touched this piece.
Absolutely, which makes it that much more special.
Absolutely, yep.
And another thing we haven't shown yet is a new Warframe. And Minky's influence continues with the Devil Warframe. Yeah, this is obviously a layout of Minky's exploration into this theme. And can you tell us a little bit more about how we kind of are entering the territory of a Devil Warframe?
Yeah, I guess actually right off the top, he wasn't apparently super comfortable with having his sketches often seen, which is something I didn't know until relatively recently, which is a bummer because there's a lot of them, but I mean, there's just so much energy in his pieces, and there's actually 2 pages of these. And yeah, Rebecca and I got to have conversations with him, several times a year sort of thing, and have him do really big, impactful pitches. Like a Warframe was a part of it, but a lot of the kickoff to get us towards 1999 as well. So can't really say enough there. But yeah, I mean, it's just a great, exciting theme. A little ironic for like the nicest person that you could ever hope to meet to have this be their last Warframe. But it's really cool, and it's turned out super, super well.
Yeah, and from that yeah, absolutely. So the team landed on this particular sketch to continue on into this final concept piece by Sergey. And Marco, I know that the team wanted to maintain as much as Minky's original design as much as possible. And tell us a little bit more about the process of working with Sergey on this.
Yeah, well, keeping the original sketch in mind was absolutely the priority there. And Sergey did a terrific job completing the design, working around it, giving the back view. And the only little touches that we added was little TennoTech elements to it, some metallic trims, but the original soul of the concept is still there. And yeah.
Absolutely. And we see the cool flames coming off of the heels.
Yeah, maybe try to distance a bit from amber and chroma with the color of the flames or where the flames were coming from. And in general, the Constitution tried to keep that nimble devil look that was crucial to the original sketch.
Absolutely. So for clarification, this isn't our next Warframe. It is a new Warframe to come. I know. Don't worry, that means that there's another one.
It'll be worth it, guys.
All right, so we've arrived. I'm speaking for the community when I thank you all, and obviously everyone on the art and animation team and Warframe team for the magic that you create. But that magic comes with hard work and dedication to your crafts and a love for Warframe. And it should be celebrated. And we're so lucky that we are able to do it here on the TennoCon stage with all the Tenno here and everyone watching from home. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your talents with us. Now, there is an article up at warframe.com, or there should be, with bonus panel content, as well as some write-ups from the artists that you saw featured here today on their work. Check it out. Shout out DE Sam for all your work on the panel with me. Next up, we have the Sounds of the System panel with Zach and the sound team. You won't want to miss it. But before we head off, there's one final thing we would like to show you. And it involves Tim being way too close in proximity to Jeff throwing things around in the mocap room. So we're going to take a look at that. But thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of TennoCon. Thank you again.